What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Ashton Bassin. Today we're going to be reviewing and looking at my top 5 favorite lures for late springtime, early summertime. Let's get into it. I would like to start with a type of lure that did not make it on my top 5. It was a runner-up just for some conditions in my area, but I thought it was worth showing, so we're gonna review this before we get into the top 5. Runner-up is the crankbait. There are many different types of crankbaits. You got the lipless, the round-sided, like short diving crankbait, and the deep diving crankbait. Let's start with the lipless crankbait. The lipless crankbait is also known as a rabbit trap in some areas of the United States. You can tell why. So the lipless crankbait basically works like a crankbait, except you control the depth of this bait by retrieve, whereas the one with the lip, it's controlled by the angle of the lip. So this you control by your retrieve, and it's flat-sided. It's got the hooks underneath instead of like on the back. And yeah, you control it by your retrieve and go to any depth you want. The next lure we have is the shallow diving round-sided crankbait. This one I believe goes to 5 feet. Square bill 5-foot crankbait. This one's made by Arashi, the chartreuse color. The reason why this is a shallow diving crankbait is because the lip of it is angled more straight up and down, whereas this one is more like horizontal. This causes it to stay higher up in the water column. This is a deep diving crankbait. It doesn't say, but I'm guessing that this one dives 10 to 12 feet just because of how horizontal the lip is. This is a deep diving crankbait. Dives farther down. I usually don't use these in Michigan because they get in the weeds. That's what a lot of these crankbaits do, and I don't fish them that much, but when I do in ponds with less weeds in my area, they work really well. Here's my 5th favorite summer bait. It's called the Buzzbait. Believe it or not, this is a topwater lure, even though it does not look like a topwater lure. They come in many different colors. It's really weird looking. They have the jig head connected to some wire, connected to the blade, and it stays on top of the water column. This blade spins and makes a lot of noise, kind of like a whopper plopper. They come in many different types. This one has holes in it, for example. This one has rivets in it, and it's a tri-blade. And this one is just 2 blades, but it's a buzz blade bait because it has this extra little blade down here, which causes it to make extra noise. So, and then you just have your traditional, like, normal buzz bait. This one doesn't even have a skirt on it. The reason this is my favorite lure is because it attracts many big bites. It may not catch as many fish, but when they do bite, they're usually pretty big fish. And it's also pretty easy to fish. You just straight retrieve it on the top of the water column, and makes a whole bunch of noise, gets the fish agitated, and usually they bite. Usually people put paddle tail swim bait trailers, such as the Guggenbait Saucy Swimmer, on the tail end of these as a trailer. Some people also put another trailer hook that comes off right here to increase your hookup ratio. And usually how I fish these, I usually fish this one because it has the extra blade for extra noise. And I usually put a chartreuse Saucy Swimmer on the back of it, and straight retrieve on top of the water column. Yeah, I usually don't put an extra trailer hook on it, but I might try that this summer. It's just an overall good bait for catching fish, and when they do bite, usually pretty quality fish. So that is the reason why it's my number 5 favorite summertime lure. Right here, we have the Chatterbait. This is my number 4 favorite summertime lure. Some people call it the Chatterbait. And there's also different variations where it's called a bladed jig. So right here I have the Z-Man original Chatterbaits, which are these 5. And then I had 2 of the Guggen Squad clickbaits, but one of them broke off. Guggen Squad clickbait is, the blade is arranged a little bit differently. The Guggen Squad clickbait is variation between a Chatterbait and a bladed jig, whereas this one is just a straight Chatterbait. You can see the difference in the blades. Only complaint I have for these clickbaits is they like to rise up in the water column a lot higher than these do. So you kind of have to fish them slower, and then you lose some action. But you can angle the wire down and up so you can control that a little bit. Clickbait also has awesome action, shakes back and forth like this in the water a lot, and it attracts some big bites. Normal chatterbait, you got the little spot to tie on, goes like this. This shakes in the water column, which shakes the skirt. And for all of these, you put like a little rattling chunk, which is like a crawfish type lure that's meant for trailers, and it has a little rattle in it. Or you can just put your straight up saucy swimmer paddle tail swim bait, which is usually what I use. If you work this right, you kind of want it right above the weed line or right on some drop off. This will just shake, imitate a bait fish, and you'll get chopped. Here is my number 3 favorite summertime lure. It's called Spinnerbait. Spinnerbait, of course, has 2 spinners on it. It's a wire bait, so you hook up right here, and it has the jig head with the trailer. Some people put extra trailer hooks on it. One Rod One Reel Fishing does a lot, I've seen. Paddle tail swim bait, it's a trailer. This basically swims, paddle tail kicks off, water, spinners, attract fish visually, and they displace a lot of water. This is the Googan Squad Zinger, white and chartreuse color. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You can straight retrieve it or like burn it and then pause it and then burn it. But overall, just a good fish catching lure. Attracts them a lot and gets chopped. My number 2 favorite all-time summertime lure is the Jitterbug. So, the ancient Jitterbug looks like this. There's no joints. Goes back in the water like this. Top water lure. Every time this hits the water, it makes a big popping sound. I usually don't fish that one as much as I fish this, the Jitterbug 2.0. It's jointed, works the same with the lip. Goes on the water column like this. It makes the same sound as like a blooper or a popper, but it's kind of like a buzzbait as well, so you can straight retrieve it. Or you can straight retrieve it and pause it, and usually you'll get a bite sometimes like that. It's also a Jitterbug 2.0. I love these lures. They catch a ton of fish. I usually fish this one when the bluegill are spawning because they turn this weird color, just like this. So this one ultimately gets bitten by a lot of bass because it kind of matches the hatch. Overall, just a great fish catching lure, and I would recommend you guys buy some. Number 1 all-time favorite technique lure kind of combo that catches fish, catches a ton of fish, catches big fish. Cut my PB on this. And it's called the Texas rig. So you can have your normal round bin hooks, worm hooks, and then you can have your 4/0, 5/0 extra wide gap worm hooks. I understand that the round bins are meant for thinner plastic, so you don't need that much hook to get through the plastic, whereas extra wide gap are meant for thicker plastics and they can go all the way through. I don't understand why people don't fish extra wide gaps all the time. That's what I do. And then you'll have this tied on, and then you have the bullet weight, which just sits on top of the hook like this, or like this. The reason you use a bullet weight is because this is completely weedless. When you rig a Texas rig, it comes off completely weedless. The weeds do not come on it. And yeah, there's all different types of weights, all different weighted weights, colors, all different sizes of hooks, different types of hooks, shank hooks, belly weighted hooks. But overall, just an awesome type of technique and bait presentation to catch a lot of summertime bass. Right here we have my bin full of soft plastics, which I will always use. All these lures I would use to Texas rig. For example, crack and craw, bandito bug, stick baits, curly tail worms, creature baits, flukes. You can even Texas rig a tube. Right here we have one of those trick worms, Texas rigged on an extra wide gap hook. So fish bites down, this hook pops out, hooks them right in the mouth. Otherwise it's completely weedless. To make it even more weedless, they call it tex posing. You can sink the hook point into the plastic, and there's no way you're getting weeds on this. Really finessey. You can drag and drop it, straight retrieve it, do whatever you want with it, and it just catches fish. That's probably why it's my favorite lure of all time. Thank you guys for watching. If you'd like to see some more tips or tutorials or reviews, please leave a comment down below. The reason I did this video today is because it's really rainy, really muggy, really hot, upwards of 90 degrees, really humid. and not great fishing conditions and almost impossible fishing conditions, so I thought I would just do one of these videos, and hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one.